is function should have less arguments, fewer arguments. A function should do one thing.
Okay.
So I would
Yes,
also,
that's a good idea. Functions should have a reasonably small number of arguments. I like to limit it to about 3, sometimes 4. Yeah, but I like to limit the arguments to around 3, and I like the size of the functions to be 4 or 5 lines. I don't want too much more than that.
yes.
And the way
They're
I
hard.
achieve,
And they're harder to call when you write a function with so many arguments and you're calling it in other class, for example, or calling somewhere. It's just hard for you to, provide all those values, like when you're calling it. It's hard
yes,
to tell. Yes, it's hard to maintain. But whenever I, you know, try to bring this idea into my community, people start saying like, why we should have function with less arguments or no arguments. This is not true, you are not saying right. So I thought that one day I will talk to Uncle Bob. Yes. One day we will have a discussion on this. One day my dream will surely come true, that I will talk to Uncle Bob. Yeah, that's that this one day.
a function that has many arguments
Yes.
is part of a system that has not been well partitioned. The system has not been broken up into pieces where the data is arranged strategically in those pieces. If you do partition the system well and arrange the data into classes, then the functions you call will have few arguments because the extra data is in those classes. It's in those objects of those classes.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons we want our argument list to be small. If our argument lists are small, it means that we have properly, or at least partially properly, partitioned our system to prevent big argument lists.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. When you see an argument list with 10 arguments, you know that
Yes.
somebody has not partitioned things well, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Okay. And we'd like our functions to be small, because we don't want our functions to do more than one thing. And a function that is large, it must be doing more than one thing because it can be taken apart into smaller functions. If you can take it
Yes.
apart into smaller functions, it must be doing more than one thing.
Yes.
So it'd be
Yes.
better to pull it apart into lots of little tiny functions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that way, every function does one thing. That function will have a name. That name will describe what that function does. The name will
Yes.
appear in the function call. The function name will read like a sentence. And your
Yes.
keywords, like if and while, will be followed by these function calls that read like sentences. And your code
Yes.
will read like well written prose.
Yes. I so agree with you, Uncle Bob, and I love reading your books, and it gives me immense pleasure to read your books, to learn from you. And right now I'm talking to you, and I'm still not believing. I still think that this I will just wake up and say, oh, that was all a dream that I was talking to Uncle Bob. And I will also start reading the books you recommended to me. Like I have a thirst of knowledge. Like I have absolute great love for the books. If I can show you my books, like these are all books that I have. I can't read the soft copies, so
Yeah.
these are the books. And if I tell you this is the book on performance of .NET application. And I have so many books on database systems and these books. I love reading books, and I have your book of clean code. And right now, one of the solution architect in our team suggested me your book Clean Code: A Craftsman Guide to Software Structure and Design. So I have by Robert C. Martin. So this is the books he suggested to me, and I was overjoyed. Yes, you suggested to me the book of Uncle Bob. One day I'm going to talk to Uncle Bob. I'm in chat with him and process of chatting with him. So I right now I'm since I want to be a solution architect, so I'm reading your book of this clean architecture, guide to software structure and design. So when be reading this book, I will still have so many questions and so much to ask you, to learn from you. And also, I don't want to exploit your time. I know your time is very much precious. So I will maybe I'll disturb you again. And I don't want this session to be like over for me, but I know your time is very much precious. So thank you
You're
so
very welcome.
much, Bob. Thank you very much. I'm so thankful, and I still can't believe my eyes, and that I have talked to you. And during this session, I got so much to learn from you. And thank you very much.
You're
Any
very
last
welcome.
advice? Any last advice? Last advice you wanted to give me and all other developers around the world that are your fan?
Perhaps the second most important skill of a developer is to learn how to write well, not code,
Yes. Yes.
but communicate with other people well, usually in writing.
Yes.
That's a skill that will serve you very well over time.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree with this. And we should be before being a good coder, we should be a better writer. So someone else is gonna come and look when he or she will look into our code. He shouldn't be saying that who wrote this code, what is this doing, what the functions are doing. This function is doing so many things. The function has 10 or 12 or maybe 30 lines of codes. So whenever we should write, we should write in a way that if another comes, it's just so easy and readable and maintainable for him, that whenever you leave the company may be not at loss, or the developers may not be at at another problem understanding your code. And your books and your participation in the community will always help us. And we and I thank you from on behalf of all the community, on the behalf of my family, my team members who like to read your books, who are the big fan of yours. And I am so thankful for your time, Uncle Bob. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.